This is a public meeting of the Community Foundation of Randolph County Advisory Review Panel, convened to review applications for the Indiana Arts Commission Region 5 Arts Project Support Grant for fiscal year 2022. I'm Cheryl Thurston. I'm a retired nurse and nurse educator, and I'm a watercolorist. I live in Lynn, Indiana. Today is April 22nd, 2021. We are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There's no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state. Let's start with the panel. Olivia.
You're muted, Olivia.
Hello, I'm Olivia Patterson. I'm an artist currently working as an admin for a non-for-profit in Wayne County, Richmond, but I live in Blackford County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise King. I'm located in Muncie, Indiana. I am a visual artist, and I also am a fundraiser for a local nonprofit that serves Delaware, Henry, and Randolph counties.
Thank you. Van?
I'm Van Nelson. I'm a retired computer science professor from Ball State University. I'm a horn player. I play and am president of the East Central Indiana Chamber Orchestra, and I'm from Muncie, Indiana.
Thank you. Roberta.
Roberta, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. Hi, Roberta Wong, 30-year teaching artist and choreographer and performing artist here in the Indianapolis area. Founding member of 2 Dance for Parkinson's programs, previous IAC Individual Artist Program grant winner, and currently teaching and choreographing at the Indianapolis School of Ballet and other places.
Thank you. Paige?
Hi, I'm Paige Sharp. I'm the Deputy Director of Programs for the Indiana Arts Commission. I am staff and merely here to observe today.
Thank you. Chapin?
Hi there, Chapin Schnick, the Contracts Operations and IT Assistant at the Arts Commission, and I'm here in a technical role.
Thanks. Brady?
I think that we skipped Anne.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's do her first.
Ann Kim, artist and art educator. I'm the chair of Fine and Performing Arts at Indiana University East.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Brady?
I am Brady Eulis, the Region 5 Arts Partner through the Community Foundation of Randolph County.
Thank you. All right, now we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work. I will announce the application, we'll review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read them. Just provide your comments, please. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We're not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives panelists bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I'll open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we are only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, the panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. However, there are no conflicts of interest on this panel. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It's common for scores to change as a result of the broader discussion. These scores save automatically. Are there any questions?
Yes, one quick question. When we update our scores, do we need to flash back to the panel thing, or will that flash on our screen so we can update them?
I think that's a technical question.
You're asking about the screen share that I just canceled, whether you'll need to review that or.
When we're ready to change our scores on the proposals, will that come up automatically, or do I need to go back and get that and flip back and forth on the screens?
Gotcha. We will be, Cheryl will be introducing each application. And so if you have your grant management portal up, then you can update your scores there and save them as we go along.
Okay, I'll probably have to get it up then. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll begin. We'll start with the application from Central Indiana Powwow Incorporated. The first reader is Olivia Patterson.
This is a very strong application that was sent in by the Andersontown Powwow and Indian Market and Education Day. I liked that I saw that they were very thoughtful about including people with disabilities. They have a lot of interaction with folks in the community to make plans on how to make this a project that will benefit the community. And they're also reaching out to many different community members, including them into the building of this project and program. They have a lot of interaction for children. It is based mostly for children, but it's including also other people of different ages and ethnicities. And they're making it available even to underserved populations as well, like making sure that there's handicap accessibility to their program, and using feedback from their communities to provide more programming that's new. For example, like the hoop dancing and men's fancy dancing exhibition with 2 new cultural interpreters. And so that's really cool that they're bringing in new ideas and new programming in response to what people are asking for. I'm sorry for the building. I guess there's people working in the building. So let's see. And they are providing passes for folks in the underserved populations and looking to bring in people from the senior citizens, as well as other communities that may not be interacting with them. And a very strong focus on Native American culture. So it's providing like 4th graders, high school and middle school art students with an awareness of this program. And then they're learning new skills and experiences. So I see that it's a very strong application in the sense of they're bringing in other community members. They're focusing on teaching people and allowing them to interact. It's not just an audience, but hands-on with some of the things that they have the children, the students working on. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The second reader is Denise King.
Thank you. I agree with the assessment. The applicant provided specific examples of community partnerships and strategies, especially what stood out is the intentional outreach to those who had limited access to cultural programs. And that was really supported with strong examples in the application. My additional comment is that I really liked having the artist fees broken down within the budget. That provided some clarity on the compensation and actual benefits, financial benefits to those artists. And that was my final comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Any new additional or opposing comments from the group? Roberta?
Hi, Roberta Wong. Love the application, very detailed, really strong. Under community engagement and IDEA, number 4, For me, tools and methods, it says a review of surveys enables us to evaluate, etc. Good mention of it, but looking for more specifics, more details on, say, the system's workings or processes, what kinds of questions you're asking. More detail just makes the application stronger, lets us know that you are extremely aware of what tools you're using and how to use them. Could have mentioned perhaps how your measurement of success is measured, because you're dealing with a lot of people and you're dealing with a lot of fantastic programming. But, are there standalone challenges that should be met with ongoing populations? Has your population evolved a little bit? Is that why because it is supposed to be for development of your program, to have the community input. So for me, strangely enough, the social media, neither Firefox nor Chrome browsers would open the powwow.org due to an unsecured link that could possibly be my system, but or just the browsers that I'm using, but perhaps look at updating and securing your links. Wonderful video on the YouTube. Fantastic, engaging, informative, effective, really well done.
Thank you.
And I have one more. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Panel project management, please include the name and a brief biography of the lead project manager and the staffing overview. You indicated 5 years of experience, and all the, but it speaks to the quality of the project and the organization's capabilities to list more details in those as well. So, thank you.
Additional comments? If not, I'll ask you to please finalize your scores and update your online comments, and then let me know if you need more time. Is everyone ready for the next application? Okay, good. I like the thumbs up sign. Ben, are you ready too? You seem
Yeah,
intent.
I got to get back into it here.
Okay.
Okay, Chanticleer String Quartet. As a reader of this proposal, I should note two biases I have. Number one, I really like chamber music. And number two, as a horn player, I think funding should go to woodwind quintets, flute, oboe, horn, clarinet, and bassoon. So maybe these two biases cancel each other out. I should also note that I did play violin in my high school years, as well as horn, and I did play in a string quartet. So I have a little knowledge of it. However, they forced me to play viola because I was a horn player and could transpose from treble, from alto clef to bass clef. Also, one of my favorite works for string quartet, the Dvorak Quartet in F, which is called The American, has been arranged for woodwind quintet. And I have this work performed it in a woodwind quintet. So string quartet music has redeeming qualities. Now to become serious. I believe that the work of the Chanticleer String Quartet to be an important asset to the community, as well as concerts in different venues. And I like that they played at the Chanticleer Farm, the local library, and so on. And I appreciate the fact, I really do, that one member of the orchestra brings string music into the public schools, because many public schools no longer have an orchestra or a string program. And I think children lose out on hearing these instruments. One of my joys as a musician has been to be invited to demonstrate the horn to elementary students in music classes. And I like the Mozart theme from his magic flute that was used by the member to go into the public, or proposed to go into the public school to demonstrate this. I was also impressed that the string quartet plans a concert at the state mental hospitals, because 60 years ago, I played with the Richmond Symphony and we presented a concert there. The audience was very appreciative. For me, I would like to have seen some videos of the quartet playing more popular and jazz arrangements to demonstrate the variety of music that they claim to perform. For instance, I stumbled on a performance of the Beatles tune Eleanor Rigby arranged for string quartet. This may appeal to some audiences, particularly youthful audience, and then you can start them with this and then get them more involved in a Schumann string quartet or something of that nature. You know, I went to, years ago, I remember going to a Juilliard string quartet performance, and they did a Roger Sessions atonal string quartet. I loved it. One of my colleagues in the music department that I'd studied with turned up his nose at it. And 20 years ago, he reminded me I was the only person in the house that liked it. Now, I think about this appealing to audience appeal, and on their videos out there, I would have liked to have seen one more modern work as well as the Schumann string quartet and the things that were there.
Hey, Van, it's Paige. I just want to interrupt briefly. I want to ask you, because you're talking about all of your biases, are you able to review the application objectively, or are you weighing how your personal preference into the actual?
I'm trying to be objective in this. I really am.
Okay.
I think about my experience and how much I like this. I like the fact that they're out there reaching underserved areas.
Right.
That
Okay.
they talk about.
Yeah, definitely. That's important. Just make sure it's reflects the criteria. So specifically, you know, that they are addressing underserved communities as you see it evidenced in the application and things of that nature would be really helpful. So try to focus more on the criteria.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Great. Thank you,
I'll see
Van. I
what can
appreciate
do
it.
here. You know, this was just one thing. I also find that it was interesting that they're trying to make arrangements to bring the music to a prison. That's certainly another underserved audience. And I think that they seem to be making good use of the funding. Now, you know, as far as Indiana artists are concerned, 3 of the members of the quartet are from out of state. I guess that didn't bother me. You have a quartet, they're performing in the area, they're playing in underserved areas, they're playing in different venues such as a library. And I think this was, for me, this was a strong point of this. And we'll see how things go through the year as they play in different places. Seem to have made arrangements to do different things with this COVID, but that was my reaction to this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Van. The second reader is Ann Kim.
Hi. I thought it was an impressive application in terms of how long the quartet has been together since it started. And it's clear that it has been making impact for the audience, for both adults and children. And the musicians are compensated at a reasonable rate if counted per performance. The only area I had trouble with, and that Van actually did mention, was the question whether it was financially benefiting Indiana artists, right? Because according to the bios, only 1 of the 4 are based in Indiana. Just from a writing standpoint, in the narrative section, I would suggest maybe introducing Caroline, or at least saying that she's the founder of the quartet when kind of describing her visits. The info was included in the later part of the narrative, but at first I was like, who is this person, right? Because the way it was kind of thrown in there when Carolyn visits, I was like, okay, then I had to keep reading to understand she's the founder. So maybe kind of move that information to the top. I think it would help with the writing portion. In terms of community engagement, I would suggest maybe bolstering the quartet's social media presence. It has a Facebook site, but I think maybe more actively request people to follow that page, and more information, including a full schedule and more performance videos and photos, I think would be helpful. And the group's website is well organized and with updated information, but I think maybe more kind of visual under gallery, I think would kind of really amp it and make it more well-rounded. One thing I would note was that there's no assessment tool or plan that was listed for the impact besides the approximate number of participants. So maybe having an online or in-person survey, for example, and or also having more robust social media presence could also help gather more qualitative kind of comments from the audience. one thing I would note is that the 36,500 figure in terms of participants for the online part, I don't think, the directions say that that's not considered direct participants. So maybe not include that information as part of the application. So in terms of the budget, maybe I didn't understand it very clearly, but I thought the application said all the concerts are free, but then there was also a line for admission fees. So I wasn't sure if there's some that are, charged and some that are not. So that was the only question I had. But it's clear that the group has been running, smoothly and efficiently, and has been really impactful for the community. And although I do think the founder could probably really use the help of, either a board or at least a part-time assistant, because it seems like it's a lot to be doing as, one of the performers, as well as, the one person who's kind of running the entire show. That's it. Sorry.
Any new additional or opposing comment from the panelists? Yes. Roberta?
Okay. Yes, I saw some of the same things that Anne did. I do think the application was fantastically written, very well engaging, very well considered. Just a few helpful hints. Community engagement, again, IDEA. Under number 2, how will the community's input be included in the development and planning of the proposed project, especially when it's been a repeat project, obviously successful. While collaborations were referenced, sensitive and well considered, there was no specific example cited of current community input for the development. It was referenced that what Caroline learned through State Hospital, Boys and Girls Club, et cetera, Chanticleer. For me, the narrative could have been improved by citing, say, a specific example of a new dialogue, or improved or confirmed programming that dates or times of the year where dialogues take place. In the project timeline, you did mention, the applicant did mention that Caroline Kempler-Green has month-to-month timeline, works continually with presenters. That would be great in this narrative, so we understand that that is actually going on. Post-programming feedback demonstrated success, fantastic success. So no method of active dialogue with communities was mentioned. Annual phone video chat with teachers, follow-up surveys with sections for suggestions, right? To actually investigate any updates, imagine with that many school children, you've got sensory impaired or sensory aware, autistic and spectrum, and all sorts of things. Would love to have seen a little bit about, during the height of COVID, did the teachers make suggestions or agreement through open dialogue for how school children could still be served? Does the programming have a course of action for adapting to changing needs? And finally, under number 4, tools and methods, none specifically stated. Perhaps find someone who can help you find, apps or other kinds of assessment tools. There's a lot going on now with those technology-wise to make it easier for you. Oh, I did have one final thing under project management for you guys, for the applicants. For me, it's best not to include discussions of possible other programs in the section, as the funding here is only going to be provided for programs firmly listed in this application. So if the project is funded and extra programs come to fruition, you can put that in a post-project narrative to strengthen, the artistic quality of your work. But, that, while it's lovely to hear, if we're not including that in the funding if you get funded. So it's a fantastic application, though. Thank you.
Any other additional comments, opposing or new comments? I'm going to ask you to finalize your scores and update your online comments. And while you do that, I do need to apologize to the Chanticleer String Quartet, whose fiscal sponsor is Earlham College. You were not officially introduced. When I asked Van if he was ready, he jumped right in there, but you have been reviewed. So thank you very much. Let me know when you're ready to move on to the next application. Is everyone ready? Give me that thumbs up again if you are. Thank you. Oh, I like that, Ian. The next applicant is East Central Neighborhood Association, and the first reader is Roberta Wong.
All right, hi. Old Washington Street Festival, according to their project description summary really quick, long-standing two-day street fair, architecture, artists, musicians. Sounds absolutely huge, and I would love to go see it sometime. First things for me, it's mostly about the grant writing. It obviously, with over 40 years of presenting this, you guys should be knowing what you're doing, and it looks successful according to the media samples. For this panelist, the project summary and the mission could be rewritten to better convey the vibrancy, scope, and fundraising purpose. It mentioned fundraising when you click the box, but check the box, but there was no mention of that, which would be, I think, informative and helpful and give more power to your mission that you are fundraising for East Central Neighborhood. Artistic quality examples, to me it was, sorry, did your community give you input into the selection process? Do you have the samples or descriptions of like the bands or the vendors to support your artistic quality? I could have used more of that. How does your community like vote on which bands were the most popular? Who do you want to see again? Which vendors were, artistic quality will just indicate from those things. For me, there was an incomplete answer for recurring project. There was no mention of using past experience. For example, your most successful fundraising year or your COVID experience or other challenges you've addressed that informed your development of this year's planning. And that was the question. How would you maintain the festival offering continuing fundraising goals if COVID 2021 adds limitations? That was not specifically asked in the application, but it will serve to show that artistic quality, you're familiar with your population, you know exactly what needs to happen, you are worried about losing your fundraising, so you're making alternative measures. Number two, under the artistic, to me was not completely answered. Tell us about the artists, the ensembles. Be sure to include where they're from, how they will financially benefit, honorarium, stipend, etc. Examples of this could be name the band, where it's from, how are they paid. If the 75 that you've included are artist vendors, then give some sample names, descriptions, so that we get a better idea of what this festival holds. Moving on, community engagement, CEIDEA. Again, providing more definitions would be helpful. Are your audience traveling from other places? You've got 8,000 to 10,000 people. It sounds amazing. Where are they coming from? What range is lower income for you? What variabilities do you see and accommodate? It talked about, observation and things, but do your elderly prefer to attend in the morning? Have you made space for them where it might be a little more quiet and easily accessible, if you're having so many thousands of people in a few days? Are the home tours, do they accommodate physically disabled or sensory impaired? Let's see. Even something like, do the homeowners get a stipend or like a photo feature or something? Just you addressing the different parts of your community and why it works and what the equality is. The community engagement. Are the streets blocked off and the shuttles available so off-site patrons can have access? These giant festivals typically have problems with that. Have you made arrangements? Do the home tour guides have language or sensory impaired translations or translators? So to really answer the question, I could have used a little more details on those. The second one is when, where, and who is involved in the call out meeting. You talked about community, but we haven't completely defined your community. How do the different segments have a voice in this development of this program? those who cannot physically attend, are there call-ins for those people? Okay. Under IDEA going on, have you added any strategies over time pertaining to the feedback? This is a very ongoing festival, sounds very popular, but this application is looking to see that you developed it with your community in mind, not for your community. Tools and methods, this is always that thing, right, guys? How are you collecting the data? Who is processing it? What is your measure of success, and what part of your data informs that? This really lets us know that you understand your community, that you understand those accessibility needs. Panelists should not assume anything is what I'm coming from here. Artist participation numbers should actually, as I understand it, includes the artists 20 plus the 75. So, and then one final thing in there, would you consider having artists on the planning committee to give voice to the artists participating, because they are a great segment of why you're serving your community, right? What kind of entertainment, et cetera. Under project management, in addition to staffing overview, include title, role, and responsibilities. I did not really see names, titles, roles, lead manager experience specifically stated, which would prove the capability of managing the project. How large is your board? Key players, roles, titles. That's what the question's asked. Do you have a volunteer director for volunteers for like trash and water and crowd control? And like, do you have security detail? There's a lot of people involved in these things. And the application asks you to actually specifically state, sections of it, just to show that you are organized in your project, right? Under the IAC timeline, list project activity and estimated start dates, et cetera. Could have used more details there as well. Budget looked appropriate. Cash income expenses need to be equal. Why did I put that there? I did not further my note on that, but I did not find, I believe, the cash income and expense to be equal. So I put, where is the fundraising and what is the average money raised? Sorry, everyone on panel, I'm going back to project. Somebody tell me if I'm incorrect on that. Why did I write that? Cash income, 11,295. And it looks right, but something happened when I was calculating. Okay. Could be my mistake, but add up all your stuff again and just double check. So, but I will make sure my score reflects whether or not I have made that error. It's going to take me a second. Project narrative activities timeline can include modifications for COVID 2021. Is this because it is a fundraiser for your target community? You demonstrating that you have a little alternate, plans would be really helpful. It was not in the question specifically, so that's fine, but this is just to see about helpfulness. Paige, anybody else who can help me out? Cash, income, and expense. It looks to be equal.
By my calculations, it's equal.
Okay. Because I did add them up before, so I'm going to delete that in my notes, and I need a moment to update my score. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all I had for that one. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. The second readers, Olivia.
I'm still learning how to use Zoom. Thank you for your patience. I don't have a lot to add except to say that this is a great, I liked that they included a youngster on their committee who's below the age of 18, but I'm curious to know how old this person is and what kind of input this person is going to be giving. And I'm excited that they're including that person on their committee just because I think it's a fresh idea, a fresh mind, including, just to see how that will change how this project goes in the future with a young one on there. Also, I did like how it is open to the public. And Roberta did bring up a question I had about, what will they do? And this, again, isn't scoring anything like that, but in future, and about the COVID thing. But as a person with people in my family who have disabilities, access to the tours of the houses, I would even wonder, like, could you do pre-taped tours or something that people could, do, or virtual tours even, something like that for those folks who wouldn't be able to navigate those house tours and who may want to have access. I didn't see anything about that in the project, but overall, I thought it was a good project application myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments? If not, I will ask you to finalize your scores and update your online comments, and then give me a thumbs up when you're ready for the next applicant. Denise and Anne, are you ready to move on? Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't see those thumbs, they will come up high enough.
I think I was the first, so you might have missed me.
The next applicant is Imagination, and our first reader is Van Nelson.
Okay, after being assigned as a reader to this proposal, I had reviewed it once, obviously, and then after rereading it to be a reader, I have a more favorable opinion of the proposed project. The proposed project is to bring a touring company, those are outside artists, Brown Box Theater, to give workshops at a production of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. The performance will be presented outdoors, and the theater company furnishes everything. As it said in the proposal, they're a turnkey outfit. They come and they make the presentation. Now, this is the first time, as I read the proposal, that such a project in this area. And after rereading the proposal, I thought back on my own experience reading research proposals, and here's kind of an analogy. I had to read a chemistry proposal once where they were using funding to go through a whole summer of experimentation that would either produce results or it wouldn't. And I got to thinking about this proposal. The whole emphasis was to try to bring theater back into the community, and either it'll work or it won't. I tend to think that it would. I think of my own experience with Shakespeare, reading Macbeth, and providing workshops to kind of educate the people on it. I remember when I was reading Macbeth, I didn't understand much of it. My mother was an English teacher. She explained it, and then it had a lot of meaning to me. And I'm hoping that it would do the same thing for the people. I think it's a very positive thing to do. So in a sense, it's an experiment to see if the theater can be revived. Now, assessing the results, I don't know how well the outcome can be assessed from this project. It's a first-time project. Will it renew interest in the theater? I don't know. I would hope that it would. But I think this is a proposal that's worth funding. The evidence that they support is that the Brown Box Theater Company has had experience in bringing Shakespeare plays to underserved communities. If it sparks a renewed interest in this community, it's certainly worth the investment. I looked at their videos that they had, and what Brown Box Theater does, and it seemed to me that it's a reasonable thing to do. I don't know how much the community was involved in, maybe as a first-time thing. It would be hard to get the community involved in it, and I'm not sure how it can be evaluated. It looks like they're taking big efforts to advertise this and to introduce it to the community. So that was my impression of this project.
Okay, thank you, Van. The second reader is Denise King.
Thank you. So I would like to say that I felt like it was commendable to try to bring back, rejuvenate that interest in theater in a community that had that in the past. I did want to note that it says in the application that 0 artists are benefiting from the project. But as I understand it, Brown Box would be bringing in performers, according to the website. And that's a diverse, inclusive group of artists. So if Brown Box has provided imagination with the number of artists that would be engaged in or benefiting from the project, it's something I think that should be included in that number on the application. And then in regards to IDEA, providing more clear strategies, I think would be really helpful here. There was a link provided to Brown Box, what I would call the vendor, the turnkey theater company, that linked to their core values. That was really helpful. But I think in terms of an application, I'd like to see a passage in the actual application that touches on what those core values are, briefly, however briefly you can with a limited amount of numbers. And then how imagination will align with that, with those core values. So maybe how Brown Box core values would be translated, applied, and built upon with this specific project, and then with the future in mind. Let's see. One thing I wanted to comment on project management was it was kind of a confidence builder to see that, again, having this turnkey company come in and do these workshops and productions that, although it's something new to the community and a new project, it's got that foundation because there's already, excuse me, a project model or project management model in place. And I think that's something that can be built upon or replicated in the future. And I think that is all my comments.
Well, thank you, Denise. Any new, additional, or opposing comments? Yes, Anne first.
So I thought this was an interesting project to echo others to bring with aims of bringing high quality theater to the area. I wanted to hear more about imagination. I think there was not very much that was talked about this organization, because it actually took me a while to realize, like, I kept thinking, who is applying for this, right? So so I could tell that the group's name was Imagination, but it kept referring to itself as we, but then not very much was really explained about what they do. So that's kind of what I wanted to hear more about. And just nitpicking a bit, but under the project title, theater was misspelled with an extra R. So, just since it's the big project title, maybe fix that. For me, the budget seemed a little under budgeted for the whole crew. That was kind of just one concern that I had.
Thank you. Other comments?
I would have to agree with Anne's comment about knowing who the group is, this Imagination. I struggled with this thing as I read it both the first and second time. And then I kind of pushed it to the back of my mind because I thought the whole project seemed to be something that was needed in the community. But I agree with your comments on that, Anne.
Okay. Roberta?
Hi. So, okay, I do come from, besides the artist, performing artist standpoint and organization standpoint, I also come from the grant writing standpoint. So I love the passion and energy in this application. It was fantastic. I love that you're trying to do It does have inaccuracies, so please watch those. It does make for a better grant proposal if you watch those, the misspellings or things that, for example, under the core values mission statement, they did state that they moved to Boston, and it seemed like it was a while ago, so we just need to watch things like that. I needed also in the mission statement the same thing. Name your organization, name your mission clearly. It seems a little in your head, but I think it's unfocused that project panelists need to actually understand what you're saying as far as your mission. So focus that down a little bit more. Same thing happened as far as inaccuracies with the amphitheater was listed in the partners, but I kept wondering, well, where is this actually going to take place? It's a bring your own chair event, you know. Artistic, for me, it's different things. Artistic quality of the media is excellent, but I couldn't quite discern the caliber of the theater group because, for example, you know, the photos, the videos, everything were really, really pretty. But the reviews on the website seem to come from participants in each project. They were not from actual or reputable press sources. So it seems a little less established. It doesn't mean it's a bad quality, but we need a little more to go on. It just seems uncertain what the quality is. So to me also explanations of why this theater group was chosen appear later, but you should really write that forward. It talked about alignment with your mission, but it should appear in this quality section, artistic quality. So one small red flags for me mean just explain a little bit more in your next application what you mean by these, or have you considered your community? So this red flag was there was no mention of why, being less than 1 hour drive from Indianapolis, that Indiana-based theater companies, actors, projects were not in discussion to help develop theater offerings in Rushville, either because you needed some mentorship to see what would really stick and work, or because there's many very giving, wonderful theater community people here who can do a bus and truck and get to you. Sorry, bus and truck is what we used to call it in dance. Outsourcing can be helpful here when there is scarcity, but your surrounding area is rich in theater depth, history, and ongoing education and projects. There's a lot going on. So it's not a criticism necessarily, but it would be a logical place to start if you want to revitalize something. Given the narrative, there was no explanation why it all faded out. So that would be something interesting to actually talk to us about. Because the reasons can reveal whether revitalization using theater versus other arts groups will prove productive. There's a reason it faded out. What was that? Narratives like these exist to give space for applicants to not only demonstrate the need for the arts, but to give us a sense you know how to bring quality programming appropriate for your mission and appropriate to your community. A little bit of a question, given that Brown Box Theater Project operates on a platform of POC, non-binary, and other diversity missions, is your audience ready and willing to participate in this mission? Have you considered what ramifications could ensue should your audience reject theater of this mission and subsequently be wary of future theater offerings? This is just based on past experience, having been 30 years in the business. The first impressions in rebuilding should be carefully considered, and you want to succeed with your community, and we want you to succeed with your community. Community engagement, real quick, please. Let's see. Who and what communities will this project serve? Not answered in this section. You mentioned it, but give us more specifics. That'll help your grant writing have more power. How will their input be included? Thank you for stating the theater of your the history of theater in your county. It does reflect need, but we need specifics about how communication with community leaders or partners was handled. Good to also mention, because this is sort of a brand new thing, that you looked at the IDEA community engagement ladder, and this is why you're starting at rung number 1. This will help us know that you're really serious about this application, you're informed, and you have care for what you're doing with it. I understand that there's a lot else going on, I'm sure, when you're trying to do something like this. What strategies are actually used in the project? For me, it was not answered. General statements were made. So to help that, give us specific methods and tools. That's also number 4. There was no inclusion of artist community engagement the inclusion of artist community engagement post-performance is contradictory to me after narrative states that it has all faded out over time. So what artistic community are you talking about? So these are they are nitpicky, but they will make for a much stronger application. Really quick on project management. There was actually no relevant experience of the lead project managers listed, and that was actually a specific question. I'm concerned that there's no local project manager listed. So if that means Imagination Nation, that is, that should be stated here. If Brown Box Theater Project is conducting all the surveys, assessments, and calculations, it sounds fantastic that they're doing everything themselves. Is there no one on staff in Rushville to tabulate and sort data for assessment and measure of success? You can rely on their own stuff, but it's your locality, it's your people, right? So it really should be based locally, and that's how you would measure. Are there any plans for archival footage or photographic record of attendees? All of these people would be included in your project management so that we understand that you know how to manage the project with specificity. Project budget, I could have used an explanation of applicant support of 1,000. Was that like a sponsorship? Was that an in-kind donation, which would go somewhere else in the project budget? I was a little confused about the project budget reflects a percentage of the total Brown Box Theater 2021 tour expenses. So it's great you considered that, and it says the IAC funds will only go toward programs that occur in Indiana relative to the single performance, which this application pertains. What if the company adds tour dates to their 2021? How will that affect Rushville's budget? Because you can't, just state more things about how you're going to make it happen if something else changes. So I know this is long, sorry guys, but since I was let's see. The travel and transport, $250. You've got 16 artists. I don't know if that includes the technical crew or not. And they're coming from Boston or Maryland. Things like that really need to be sort of explained. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but you know, if it's a bus and truck, it could. It depends. Are they not staying overnight anywhere? They're just driving all through, because that does matter. A little concerned about the $300 for the marketing for performance programs, which is what you stated. It appears high to me because you're estimating one performance with like 130 attendees. And then food and board, 16 artists at $400 is $25 an artist, inclusive of room and board, and food. So that one worried me a bit. If Brown Box has per diem or housing for their artists, that sort of should be stated. It's all there. I love what you're doing. It's passionate, it's wonderful, but is it really going to work? Does the state have faith in you to fund it? That's all with my concerns, but I'm really happy that you're trying to do it. Okay, thank you.
Any other additional comments? If not, I'll ask you to finalize your scores and update your online comments.
I do want to jump in for a little bit. We just lost Van. Van, one of the things I want to make sure we concentrate on is in terms of the scoring should relate directly to the evaluation criteria, not if a panelist feels like it should be funded because they think it's a good project or not. It should be demonstrated through how it meets the evaluation criteria. It could be a great project, but if it doesn't align with the evaluation criteria, that's really the focal point of identifying whether a project should be funded. So I just kind of want to square away that to maintain that focus on the criteria. And I think that detail is really helpful. You might try providing a little bit more of broad strokes. Certain elements I think about the budget is really important to provide, as it does raise concern in terms of wanting to make sure the accuracy is there to ensure that the project can be implemented. But let's try to provide a little bit broader of a view. Particularly if you do have those comments in the online system, the applicant will be able to have access to them. We want to make sure that we just are thorough, but make sure we're thinking about also our time dedicated to this process as well. Are you game? All right, great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Is everyone ready for the next application? All right. Okay. The next applicant is Meltdown Project. The fiscal sponsor is Center City Development Corporation, and our first reader is Olivia Patterson.
This is a strong application. What I think helped it too was that they do show that they have a lot of community interaction that's involved, a lot of engagement with local businesses, even government. I believe their mayor is the MC for the project, the program. I would like to see if they could bring in some artists from the local area. They have a lot of wonderful artists that are involved in this, being Olympian ice carvers. That's something pretty cool to bring to the community. But it would be good to see a way that they could incorporate. One is mentioned as having been from there, Andrew Thistlethwaite. But there are no locals mentioned as far as having any benefit to this program. So it'd be nice to see if they could bring in maybe some way local artists to participate, even if they can benefit indirectly. They did adapt. They had to deal with COVID last year, but they adapted their programming so that they could continue. And I think that's good that they showed that they've learned some new ways of implementing their program, changing it in the face of having to adapt to changing times. In fact, it actually helped that they were able to have what they called a motor meltdown. So it allowed for more people to be engaged, and it even focused on even for folks who may not have the mobility to be able to walk downtown to see the sculptures. So that was good to see. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do what they did last year, but they were able to think of new ways of promoting their programming. The other thing I liked about this was that they mentioned that they noted that there were 2 underserved populations that were missing from their planning committee. So they identified those issues, and now they're bringing in 2 individuals to assist for future planning to make it more accessible for the disabled. And they noted also that their media is only printed in English. They do have a Spanish or a Latin population. And so they're bringing on board Amigos Latino Center to invite a member of the staff then to help with their marketing for English as a second language. So that'll bring in an underserved population as well. I liked their marketing materials. They do use Facebook. So it's live there, and let's see. Their budget seemed fair with all of the things that they need to address to make this a and they included in kind as well. So they're reaching out and using different resources to allow for all of the programming that they need to fund. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. The second reader is Roberta Wong.
Hi, I agree with Olivia on a lot of this. So yeah, excellent. All of what she mentioned, I agree with. I felt that it was not fully answered. If this is a recurring project, how is the organization using past experience? I didn't get enough detail or could use more detail on citing the methods, just as mentioning about how the community input was driving decisions on the development. Sounds like an amazing program. To me, the question about how will artists financially benefit asks specifically, and it was not completely answered for the detail of that. Community engagement, what actual communities would be served? If you could be more descriptive about your communities with the elderly, the youth, the hearing impaired, the low income, because then we get an idea that you understand what issues need to be solved for access. Let's see. And then how will the input be included in development? Just had some notes about suggestions about more specifics and what to look at for that. IDEA strategies, it was answered in your sensitive and sound answer, but would like to see other strategies listed. Maybe you could compact and rearrange your narrative. So to answer the narrative's questions a little more specifically, at least for this reader. Tools, again, as I have learned through past, grant work, the more you can state specific measurements of or methods of tools, the better off the project management organization will be. So if you can let us know, is it all just paper exec surveys and people have to count it? Are you doing clickers? Are you observing? Yeah, just something that's a little more specific. Project management for me was also great. No problems there at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments from the other panelists?
I just had one additional comment on project management. I felt like the roles were very adequately outlined and easy to follow what everybody's responsibilities were, but they did not include the relevant experience of the lead project manager that I see there in that section. But really, otherwise, it's very nicely outlined and able to see what everybody's doing.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'll ask you to finalize your scores, update your online comments. Is everyone ready for the next applicant? Okay. The next applicant is Children's Museum Incorporated. The first reader is Ann Kim.
Hi. So I thought this was a really well put together application. And the project itself is a great idea in terms of providing a wide range of kind of accessible programming through both in person and now, what they're applying for, which is kind of this creative virtual programs. In terms of the written portion, I might want to see that they specify that they are virtual at-home sessions, because like the first sentence when I read it, my immediate thought was like, oh, are people going into people's homes, right? So make that doesn't seem like the greatest idea right now. So just make that really clear from the first sentence would be the only thing. It became very clear after a couple of sentences, but just to kind of make that division from the start. In terms of community engagement, so bringing arts to children when so many arts programming have been getting cut from school seemed to be kind of one of the core missions of the museum. So it follows that, and the kind of assessment loop and kind of what the information they're gathering seems like they have it's like a well-oiled machine. And it's also working closely to serve students with special needs and making arts just more accessible to everyone. And the social media presence was robust. So that was good. And in terms of project management, everything to me seemed very well planned. So I didn't see any problems there. I would be curious to see how it works out, because it seems like when it comes to the cookie project, it's the first time that they are doing something like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. The second reader is Van.
Yes, one statement in the proposal that was really significant for me, and I quote, "Arts are an important component of every child's learning process and thus the creation of lifelong learners. Children in this range, which was 5 to 10, are natural artists and love to beat drums, dance, sing, color, and make believe. Arts are critical to childhood development and help with sensory growth, physical development, and critical thinking." And I guess I like this project because I think that, as they stated, arts are beginning to be neglected in the schools. They're considered a frill, and they aren't a frill. I think maybe the art should be the important thing, and the other things are frills. But that's my own opinion about this. But they cite research that shows that this creative things, and I think about in my own field of mathematics, and this splash of color suddenly hit home with me, because back in 1852, there was this business about how many colors does it take? And that's where I thought about splash of colors, to draw a map where each region can be a different color. It was proved that it only took 5, but nobody could make a map with 4. And it was only 125 years later that this was proved. And when I did student teaching and had a 7th grade math class, I assigned that as a project. The kids were fascinated. The art got into it. They tried to draw maps where they needed more than 4 colors. Well, it was proved much later than that you didn't. But I think that the one strength is that it's an important component to the special needs child, particularly. And I think that, let's see, what did I put down here on this? It's a project that in one sense is new. It hasn't been tried before, but it shows that art can take places in different ways. It seems to me that they delineated well the qualifications of the people that are presenting this project. And it seems to me that, again, it's a new project in a sense, it's worthy of the investment. That's my opinion of it.
Thank you. Thanks to Van. Are there any new additional or opposing comments? Yes. Roberta?
Okay, great, strong application. For me, could have used a little more details about your underserved communities, like median income, language barriers, education levels, and then the methods to solve. So, is that the racial diversity or physical handicap, et cetera? You've got 42,000 visitors. What other IDEA issues are you actually addressing? The questions are all answered, but it sounds like a fantastic project, but I could just use a little more detail in that area. And then one thing about project management, I would have liked to have seen more information about the project management staff directly involved, besides Marcy, the lead project manager. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other new opposing comments? All right, would you please finalize your scores and update your online comments? Is everyone ready for the next application? It really is hard to determine if everybody's ready or not, so thank you. The next applicant is the National Center for Great Lakes Native American Culture, and the first reader is Denise King. Denise, you need to unmute.
I am so sorry. There we go.
Oh.
To be succinct, this is a year-long hands-on cultural art series class and visiting artist in residence project. I felt like the applicant really demonstrated that the project has a wide reach, provides cultural enrichment for a variety of ages, and in varying locations. So it seemed that a lot of this was being brought to people, which is fantastic. It supports arts and arts education, as well as benefits artists from an underserved minority. The description of the various classes and experience offered was very detailed. It wasn't clear how many Indiana artists were involved. It did mention that there were Indiana artists involved, but the application did show a breadth of Native American, tribal, and regional representation, which I thought was great. And it does support a substantial number of artists. Also, my final comment is that it was good to see in-kind support included in the budget. I think that's always very helpful.
Thank you, Denise. The second reader is Ann Kim.
Hi. So the organization is doing really important and impactful work. And I thought it was a well put together application. Most of my comments kind of belong to the community engagement section. So although there are plans put in place for monitoring the outreach programs, kind of more concrete tools, such as potential participant surveys, as well as maybe exit surveys after the participants' experience, I think could be helpful. So I did find this information on the next section under project management. So I would suggest maybe including that under this section under, measuring impact portion. So the website is visually nicely laid out, and the Facebook site has all the necessary information, but I think it would really benefit the organization if they also have an online registration and payment option, because I only saw like a mail-in option, because that could potentially be a barrier for some people kind of living in this digital age. So especially for something like a summer camp, right? That's more aimed at younger people. Just a note that the Facebook page, the URL was not listed in full. I mean, I could easily find it when I typed it in, but maybe just kind of note that to provide the full URL for future applications. And under project management, I wrote it's kind of an incredible amount of work that the organization is doing as an all volunteer run organization. So that's amazing. I do, however, wonder if there is a possibility of maybe having at least kind of a part-time assistant to manage something like the marketing or potential online registration portion, because I really do think that would generate more revenue to be able to like kind of offset some of the costs of having at least kind of one person who can kind of be paid for some of the work that they're doing. So that was my comment.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments? Roberta?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say that this, to me, was a wonderfully crafted proposal. It speaks to the understanding of your population served. It creates impact. It continues to consider and engage dialogue with your community and their ongoing program development. I just loved how you wrote this, all the details, and that you took us through the story. Yeah, like we could picture ourselves there. I thought it was very, very well written. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? If you would please finalize your scores and update your online comments. Is everyone ready? Okay, the final applicant is the Ross Community Center. The first reader is Roberta Wong.
Hi, so yes, Ross Community Center Strings Camp. And it is a 2-week camp for children in the summer and a partnership with teachers from Youth Symphony Orchestra of East Central Indiana. And it is the inaugural year of the camp. So artistic quality and benefit I found were wonderful, very detailed, very clear. Overall, lovely application, clear, well worded, explained a lot. I like that they have a dance instructor included, although I couldn't find later on what the dance instructor would actually do. So if you have something that's based on, say, a music camp, I understand it. I'm a dance person. Maybe just give a little detail on how this person is involved and creates more benefit for your artistic benefit and quality. Great proof of artistic quality through mention of the biographies and the training. This really helps clarify it. I would say clarify string instruction no longer available in traditional schools, just because I know some things still exist, but obviously it's more of your genre, you would know. So under community engagement, maybe something also about the COVID considerations, but that was not a necessary question. The strategies mentioned economic, and the populations are nicely detailed, but perhaps address other IDEA barriers and access that needs to happen. Otherwise, very, very well written. Project management, very well written. Artist fees for performance. Did you mean fees for the professional faculty? I know that's splitting hairs, but just to make sure we're detailed. What or whom are you paying? Instrument expenses, I would have liked to have seen what you meant by that as far as either rentals or maintenance or something. Again, that's a lot of detail for me, but it helps to speak to that you really are on top of it. And then music, did you mean like rights to the music or using paper scores, things like that? So other than that, really, to me, wonderfully well written, really speaks to your mission and it speaks to your community. So thank you.
Thank you. The second reader is Olivia Patterson.
Thank you. This is a strong application. I don't have a whole lot to add to it, as Roberta covered all of the fine points of it. I do want to mention that I liked to see that they are going to be working with students, and there are students like the grad students working with the children as well. So it's enriching those lives that they're reaching out to. I did wonder though, for some of the kids, I know that they mentioned that they're confident that the pricing of the camp at $10 per student is a good pricing. And I would argue, having worked with some children in some underserved places, even $10 is tough. So I wanted to know if they would have scholarships for some students where parents are not able to afford the $10, but that is still reasonable for most folks. And I did like how they did mention also, even though this isn't something that they needed to do, they were thinking about COVID safety restrictions and the safety of their students and their teachers as top priorities. So it's all good to see that in there, thinking forward of what they're going to do in the coming months and years. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Any new additional or opposing comments? If not, then please let me know when you're finished.
I did have a comment. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Denise, go right ahead.
Real quickly, I just wanted to say that looking at the social media presence, I felt that there was a good amount of diversity in showing all of the children that they serve. I thought that was fantastic to see. So,
okay, thank you. Any additional? All right. Is everyone updated? This concludes the Indiana Arts Commission Region 5 Arts Project Support Panel. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June commission meeting. If you have any questions, please contact Brady Eulis. And I thank everyone. Thank you.